Chapter 2, Unlock. Claire stood frozen for a full 3 seconds after the alarm cut out. 3 seconds were long enough to imagine everything that could go wrong. A malfunction, a test, a glitch in an old system no one bothered to fix because nothing had happened yet. She exhaled slowly and forced her hands to move again, guiding the mop forward as if momentum alone could keep the world intact. The radio crackled once more. Nothing came through. Her stomach dropped. "Don't do this," she murmured, not sure who she was talking to, herself, the building, or whatever listened in places like this. She reached up and tapped the radio clipped to her hip. "Security." Her voice sounded too loud in the empty hallway. "This is Claire and admin, I heard Mike." Static swallowed the rest of her sentence. She tried again, but the same result. Mike was the security guard, always on the night shift. The lights flickered, just once. Claire's breath hitched. She abandoned the mop, leaving it slumped against the wall, and started toward the locker room. The path felt longer now, stretched thin like something pulling at both ends. Every sound echoed too sharply, her shoes on concrete, the hum of electricity, and the distant thump of something heavy shifting its weight. Another roar tore through the air, closer than before. Loud and focused, she could feel the sound vibrations through her. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She broke into a jog. That was closer and not behind a fence. Liam didn't hear the roar the way Claire did. He felt it. It sounded as if it was right outside in the hallway. The sound vibrated through the floor, up the bench, and into his chest, setting his ribs humming like struck glass. His pencil slipped, leaving a jagged mark across the page. He stared down at it, then added to the line without fully meaning to. The drawing had stopped being a place. It was a feeling now. He was scared. Liam's fingers tingled. He glanced at the locker room door. The rules echoed in his head, steady and familiar. "Stay here, don't open the door, don't move," so he stayed. But he turned the page. The subsequent drawing was completed more quickly. He made an effort to focus on his drawings. However, the roar and the current emotion were nesting in fear. Claire rounded the corner and skidded to a stop. The hallway that led to the locker rooms was wrong. There was a feeling of eyes following her. One of the overhead lights had gone out completely, leaving a stretch of corridor drowned in shadow. The emergency lights hadn't kicked in yet, or maybe they had, and this was all they could manage. The air smelled different here, sharp, musty, and layered over the familiar disinfectant. And underneath it, animal. She took a step forward. There was the deliberate sound of something large approaching her. Claire's mouth went dry. Her body screamed run, but the image of Liam alone on that bench rooted her in place. She reached for the nearest door and slipped inside, pressing her back against it as quietly as she could. The scraping sound came again, closer. She covered her mouth with one hand, breathing through her nose, shallow and controlled. The hallway light flickered weakly, throwing shadows that twisted and stretched like living things. For a heartbeat, she thought she saw something move at the edge of the dark. Then a low chuff echoed down the corridor. Not a roar. Claire squeezed her eyes shut. "You're fine," she told herself, the words brittle and thin. "The enclosures are secure. This isn't possible, but the zoo was old, and old things failed." In the locker room, Liam's pencil snapped. The sharp crack made him jump. He stared at the broken tip, his heart racing, then carefully set the pencil aside. His hands were shaking now. He wiped them on his jeans and leaned closer to the sketchbook. The new drawing was different. You couldn't see what he drew on the paper because his hands were shaking. It resembles weird tree shapes and long shadows of monsters, and it looks as if they were looking at him. The locker room lights dimmed. Liam's breath caught. From somewhere beyond the door came a sound he had never heard before. Heavy footsteps, slow and uneven, followed by a wet exhale that rattled deep in the chest of whatever made it. He stood up. "I'm not supposed to," he whispered, even as his feet carried him toward the door. His hand hovered inches from the handle, his pulse hammering so hard it hurt. Claire heard the locker room door creak. Her blood ran cold. "Liam," she whispered, then louder. "Liam." She burst from her hiding place, sprinting toward the sound. The hallway lights surged, then died completely, plunging everything into darkness broken only by distant emergency glows. Something moved in the shadows ahead of her, large, fast for its size. She didn't look. She ran. Inside, the room was empty. The sketchbook lay open on the bench. Claire's heart slammed into her ribs as she crossed the room in 3 strides. She grabbed the book, her fingers smearing graphite, and looked down at the page. Somewhere in the zoo, something roared again, this time in triumph. Claire's breath tore out of her chest when she realized the locker room was empty. No, 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 no. She scanned the room, her eyes snagging on the open sketchbook. The drawings were darker now, with frantic lines pressed so hard the paper was nearly torn. This wasn't imagination, he was scared. Her radio crackled suddenly, not static this time. Laughter, young and male. "Dude, did you see the tiger cam go out?" a voice said, distorted but clear enough. "Holy shit, this is insane." Another voice chimed in. "Relax. My dad said the fail-safes would reset in 10. No one's even supposed to be here." Claire's blood went ice cold. Supposed to be. She slammed the radio button. "This is zoo staff. Who is on this channel?" The laughter cut off. Silence. Then a voice came back over the radio, young male, trying too hard to sound in charge. Yeah, whoever this is, you need to stay where you are." Claire froze. "Who am I speaking to?" she demanded. Another pause. Whispered voices bled faintly through the channel, not muted properly. "Dude, just tell her it's a test." "It is a test," the first voice returned, sharper now. "You're interfering with a private system test. Staff aren't supposed to be moving around right now." Test. The word hit her like a slap. Claire's hands shook as she tightened her grip on the radio. "You shut down the gates. You killed the lights. My son is missing." Silence again, this time messy. Someone is breathing too close to the mic. "That's not," the voice started, then stopped. Another voice cut in, louder, panicked. "Hey, tell her the locks are resetting." "They are resetting." The first voice snapped. "Then why are the animals loose?" Claire said. "Why can I hear them moving?" No answer. She pushed harder. "Where are you? Are you even on site?" Static crackled as someone shifted. "Look," the voice said finally, losing confidence. "You just need to clear the area, okay? Security's handling it." "What security?" Claire shot back. "I haven't got Mike on the radio, and he is always the night security. I work here and you don't." That landed. A muffled curse slipped through the radio. "You weren't supposed to be here." The voice muttered. Claire went cold. "I work night shift. Who are you?" The channel erupted in overlapping voices, too many, too fast. "Just shut it off." "Dude, cut it." The radio clicked. Dead. Claire stared at it for one beat, then she clipped it back to her pocket and ran. The deeper she went, the hotter the air became. The smell of animals grew stronger here, fur, musk, damp straw, old meat. Somewhere nearby, something slammed against metal hard enough to make the walls shudder. A panicked bellow echoed, then cut off abruptly. Not a predator. Prey. Claire's jaw clenched. "Hold on," she whispered, though she didn't know if he could hear her. "Just hold on." Her radio crackled again, briefly catching a burst of sound before dying, music this time, bass-heavy and obscene in the stillness. Teen laughter followed, echoing through the concrete like they owned the place. She rounded another corner and skidded to a stop. A gate stood open ahead of her, not ripped apart, not bent, unlocked. The heavy steel door had been slid aside and propped open with a fire extinguisher, as casual as someone leaving a door open for a smoke break. Beyond it lay the service corridor behind the big cat enclosures. Red emergency lights washed the walls in a sickly glow, and claw marks gouged fresh lines into the concrete. Too fresh. "No, not this. Please, not this." "Liam," she called again, softer now, afraid of what might answer instead. From farther down the corridor came a small sound. A gasp, quickly swallowed. Claire's heart lurched. "Liam." She moved forward slowly this time, every muscle taut, every sense stretched thin. The enclosure wall to her right vibrated faintly, a low rumble traveling through it like distant thunder. She didn't look at the bars. She didn't look at the darkness behind them. She followed the sound. Liam was crouched behind a utility cart tipped on its side, his sketchbook clutched tight to his chest. His eyes were wide, glassy with terror, but when he saw her, they locked onto her face with desperate intensity. "Mom," he whispered. She was on him in an instant, dropping to her knees and pulling him into her arms so hard it almost hurt. He smelled like graphite and sweat and fear. He was shaking. "I'm here," she breathed into his hair. "I've got you, I've got you." A deep growl rolled through the corridor, so close she felt it in her teeth. Claire went still. Every muscle went rigid. The sound came from the enclosure to their right. A lion, she realized distantly, pacing, agitated by the open systems, the wrong lights, the unfamiliar noise of humans where they shouldn't be. The bars held, but only just. The lock panel beside the enclosure hung open, its cover ripped off, wires exposed. Human hands. Careless hands. Claire swallowed and shifted her body, putting herself between Liam and the sound. "Listen to me," she murmured, her mouth close to his ear. We're going to move, quiet, no running. No talking, he nodded frantically. They stood together inch by inch, backing away from the enclosure. Claire kept her eyes on the floor, on the path ahead, refusing to acknowledge the massive shape pacing just beyond the bars. A sudden shout echoed from farther down the tunnel. Yo. You hear that? Flashlight beams swung wildly, cutting through the red haze. Dude, that thing is pissed. Claire's grip tightened on Liam's hand. The teenagers' voices were close now, too close and getting closer. The lion roared, full-throated this time, the sound exploding through the corridor and setting off a chain reaction of noise from other enclosures. Chaos. Pure, human-made chaos. Mom, Liam whispered, his little voice breaking. Claire leaned down, her voice steady despite the terror clawing up her spine. Eyes on me, she said. Don't look anywhere else, just me. Footsteps were pounding toward them. Somewhere behind the bars, something slammed against steel. And Claire understood with brutal clarity that saving her son meant surviving not just the animals, but the people who had unleashed them.